What's the good word, y'all? It's your boy DKB here. So we finally got to see Aaron Rodgers back at MetLife Stadium on a night where his protege Zack Wilson absolutely went off, had the game of his life. We haven't seen anything close to this level of production consistency and pinpoint accuracy from Zack Wilson at this point. So it was a great night. Yeah, if we could have capped it off with a win, that's the only thing that would have made this entire night better. But nonetheless, some Aaron Rodgers news that we have on the table here. So it seems like NBC's Melissa Stark got a little bit of information from Aaron Rodgers, as well as some predicted dates for when we will see Aaron Rodgers back within the facility, in the building, surrounding the team, at the games on a permanent schedule. So what do we know so far kind of about what's been happening with Aaron Rodgers? He's had his surgery about, 3 weeks or so ago now. He's been rehabbing 5 hours a day, according to what she was able to kind of provide for us. He flew back to Cali right after the game. He's getting stitches removed, and then again, he's going through his rehab. He's doing that 5 hours a day. He's on a very accelerated program after getting that new experimental ACL surgery that they are coining as the speed bridge, which basically is going to accelerate the whole timetable for when an athlete's expected to return. You imagine that this is being done for Aaron Rodgers, and we think we can get him back by playoffs. You think about the other guys I mentioned that have been able to come back in extreme time, obviously younger, better athletic profiles than guys like Cam Akers. I want to say James Robinson was one of the other names that I threw out there. But nonetheless, great news for the New York Jets. We seen him at the game putting light pressure on his ankle. Again, this was only about 18, 19 days after he's had his surgery, where in comparison's sake, he's walking through with crutches. He had a brace and an air cast on, a brace or an air cast on around the ankle. Little unclear there, but by comparison's sake, most other players or people just in general that go through a surgery like this, they're in a walking boot until about 6 to 8 weeks after surgery. So you're seeing a ridiculous level of healing already, and maybe this is due to the 5 hour rehab days. I don't know what that looks like. I'm a lot older removed from having any serious leg injuries, and I know even 5-10 years ago, the recommended plan for recovery would have been a lot of rest and a little bit of rehabilitation, at least within that first 2 to 3 month period. So very interesting to see that Aaron Rodgers is on the complete other end of the spectrum. But as far as the timetable for him to return, it was mentioned that he's going to come back after the Week 7 bye week for the New York Jets, and then we'll have him for the remainder of the season, again, in the facility, in the meetings, around the team, at the games. And I still wish we would have got some kind of clarification on if Aaron Rodgers had any impact on play calling, out there actively kind of walking through things with Zack Wilson during the game. Very much so seemed like he was just there as a spectator, and from everything the players said that they only heard from him the night before the game and then after the game. So if that's the case, we saw this Zack Wilson without Aaron Rodgers in his ear, I'd be even more excited to see what happens once we actually get him in and around the building again on a permanent basis. So there was Aaron Rodgers, he's been dropping more and more hints, not only, of course, about his plans to come back, not just this season, but for the next year. But maybe he's leaning into thinking he can probably get a regular season game or two under his belt if things go absolutely perfect with his rehabilitation plan. Melissa Stark, again, from NBC, who dropped a lot of this information. She said, and I guess this was kind of a quote, and he told me his goal is to play again this season. Now, again, that could just mean the playoffs if we make it there, but you have to imagine that if there's any way we can get him to see the field prior to the playoffs, where the intensity is going to ramp up and we kind of want to see where he's at, it'll be an interesting situation. If Zack Wilson plays the way he's played this year, do you tell Aaron Rodgers to take a back seat, take extra recovery time? We'll see you next season, or we'll see you in the playoffs actually after we have a week where we have a battle for the starting competition in the playoffs? or would they immediately relegate Zack Wilson back to QB2, ending what could be a hot streak at that time for him? Conversations for down the road. We may never come to that day with something to keep in the back of the noodle. As the season progresses, it's still young for us. A 1-3 record, right? Yeah. 1-3 record for us. But we've seen plenty of teams come back from these kind of games, these kind of early season woes, and worse. At least we have a division win to hang our hat on early here. The Bills are suffering through some extra injuries and stuff right now, so things look good on the horizon. As mentioned, we got the Broncos game coming up. That should be a nice little remedy, not only to get some anger out, but we already had some water table or water cooler talk, as they say, with some of the comments that we heard Sean Payton make earlier. And if nothing else, we know that Robert Saleh is fiercely protective about his players when they deserve so, and fiercely protective and emotional when it comes to his coaching staff and those connections that he has. So should be an interesting game either way. Let me know what your guys' thoughts are. Especially for that the predicted scenario I mentioned. If Zack Wilson does continue to have games like what we saw against the Chiefs, and Aaron Rodgers is able to come back early, are you putting Zack Wilson on the bench, or are you starting Aaron Rodgers? I'll catch you guys again. Peace.